The message had been pulsing through the void for 3 standard months. Automated transponders repeated it every 27 minutes on all frequencies, carrying the shrill desperation of a dying world. The Galactic Union Central Relay cataloged it, flagged it for review, and moved on. 1,000 other priorities cluttered their queue. Trade tariffs, cultural disputes, voting cycles. Bureaucracy churned while people screamed. Nareen 4 was not a core world. The colony sat along a quiet stretch of the Orion Spur, a green planet rich with soil and storms, founded by agricultural settlers over 4 generations ago. They had traded their time and labor to feed cities light years away. When the Karauk descended from the edge of known space, there were no defense platforms, no fleets, and no warning. The Karauk struck with clinical precision. Black, glassy ships cracked open the sky and released thousands of hunter drones, mechanical centipedes with plasma saws and neural spikes. The first wave leveled townships, the second went after food stores, comm arrays, and water processors. The third began culling civilians. Governor Merrick's voice cracked as he spoke the first distress beacon. "We are under attack. Civilians being massacred. Our defenses are gone. Requesting immediate aid. This is a general distress call from Nareen 4. Please, someone answer." Nobody did. Not until the signal reached a dormant Earth outpost orbiting the old mining moon of Talmoon 9. It had been a training installation mostly, sparse staff, a few automated cruisers in dry dock, but Earth's Navy didn't need debates. It didn't need votes. It needed only one word to act. Commander Jackson Reeve, still in his black flight jacket with a half-eaten ration bar in his hand, watched the decrypted message on loop twice before speaking. How many survivors? Lieutenant Barlow glanced from her screen. Unknown. Original population was 30,000. Last ping suggests under 10% may still be mobile. No military presence. Repeat raids occurring every 6 hours. Reeve set the ration bar down. Prep the fleet? Barlow hesitated. Do we wait for Central Command authorization? No, Reeve said. We go now. Within the hour, 8 Terran warships rumbled to life. The Aegis, Davenport, Shepherd, Nova Fury, Redbrook, Mason, Farsight, and the flagship Resolute. Half crews scrambled to stations. Some were still in casual gear. Boots were fastened en route to the hangars. Pulse reactors cycled up like waking beasts. Steel bodies slid free from the moon's gravity and vanished into hyperspace. On the bridge of the Resolute, Reeve stood before a star map with his hands clasped behind his back. The Kerouac are still out there, Barlow said. Their ships use polymorphic armor. We've seen them slice through Union corvettes. Reeve gave her a look that could level walls. Let them try it on us. Nareen 4 burned in places where grass had once grown in waves. Corporal Lessa didn't cry anymore. Her tears had dried 3 days ago when her younger brother disappeared in a swarm of drones. Now she huddled with 40 other civilians in the shattered remains of a sub-level hydroponic farm, hiding beneath broken pipework. The air stank of copper and mold. Every 2 hours, a drone passed overhead and swept the ruins with glowing scanners. Once it found a child's foot beneath debris, the child did not survive. Batteries dying, someone whispered. We'll ration power. We've gone darker before. Do you think the Union heard us? No. A sudden tremor shook the cavern floor. A distant roar, different from the usual thrum of drone engines, made them freeze. What was that? Above the clouds, the sky lit up. 8 Terran warships exploded into real space, like forged spears hurled by angry gods. Earth ships weren't sleek like Union vessels. They were armored, chiseled, designed to take punishment and give it back tenfold. Where alien craft glided, Terran ships surged. The Resolute locked targeting solutions before its hull cooled from transit. Reeve's voice rang through all channels. This is Commander Jackson Reeve of Earth Naval Command. You attacked civilians. You slaughtered farmers and children. You do not get to leave. The Kerouac fleet, already repositioning for another ground sweep, suddenly found themselves flanked. One of their command vessels began to ascend, its weapons charging. The Davenport fired first. The sky split open in flame. Reeves' voice came again, this time broadcast directly to the Karuak command net. The translation rendered only 4 words, clear and final. "We heard you." The engagement lasted 18 minutes. The Karuak were not prepared for Earth's fury. Plasma bursts sheared their thin-bellied carriers in half. Guided kinetic rounds punched through their spindly destroyers. Fighter wings from the Shepherd and Redbrook strafed the surface and surgically destroyed drone nests with extreme prejudice. Union analysts later described the maneuver as tactical overkill. Earth called it justice. In the hydroponic ruins, Lessa lifted her head as the tremors stopped. There was silence, then a crackle in the air. A voice on an open channel. "Rescue operations underway. If you are in hiding, stay where you are. Earth Naval Command is here. You are safe." She did not believe it at first. Hours later, when the first Terran soldiers breached the ruins in exosuits and offered her a thermopack, she began to cry again. This time it was aloud. Reeves stood on the surface by dusk, boots coated in scorched ash, watching smoke drift across a broken skyline. The Resolute floated high above like a steel guardian. Medics moved among survivors. Recovery ships descended with supplies. Barlow approached with a report. Enemy fleet eliminated, surface drones inactive, estimated 6,000 survivors. We'll need to build temp shelters. Rations are tight. Reeve exhaled. Start the drop, use everything we've got. Earth will resupply us. She looked up at the looming ships. No one else answered their call. No, Reeve said. They didn't, but we did. He turned to watch the stars blink into the void again, not in retreat, but in warning. The rain returned the next day, soaking what was left of the outposts and villages. It fell silently on shattered rooftops and charred trees, on twisted drone parts half buried in soil, and on the shoulders of Terran medics moving through the wreckage. Inside a temporary triage dome, Corporal Lessa lay under thermal mesh, a fresh IV in her arm. Her vitals were stabilizing. A field nurse recorded notes with one hand while adjusting an osteoscaffold wrapped around a broken femur. "You'll be on crutches for at least 4 weeks," he said. "Bones set but not ready for pressure. You're lucky we got to you when we did." Lessa looked up. Her voice was hoarse. "It wasn't luck. You came." Outside, work crews finished assembling the first perimeter barricades. Modular towers snapped into place with mechanical clinks, each equipped with radar and low-orbit missile shields. A pair of orbiting defense drones buzzed silently overhead. Jackson Reeves surveyed the reconstruction from the command platform anchored in the old Civic Plaza. The massive platform had dropped from the Resolute 12 hours ago. Now it functioned as the nerve center for Earth's presence on Nerine 4. Barlow passed him a tablet. Scouting team found an underground Karuk hive 2 clicks west. Looks like a forward node, buried and shielded. Could explain how they bypassed orbital scans. Any signs of active drones? No movement yet, but we found fresh energy signatures. Reeve narrowed his eyes. They're not gone, just stunned. We should hit it while we hold initiative. Prep a strike team. She blinked. You're going in yourself? Someone's got to see the nest firsthand, and I'm not leaving survivors to guess if we're serious. An hour later, Reeve descended into the jungle under a gray sky, flanked by 5 Terran Marines. The undergrowth was thick and heavy with mist, leaves slick with oil from bombed-out Karuik landers. They moved in silence, visors sweeping in tandem. The scout drone buzzed ahead, feeding data to their HUDs. "Entrance should be 30 meters ahead," said Gunnery Sergeant Ives. "Thermal shows an opening beneath that rock face." They found it, a jagged mouth in the stone, hidden by vines. The moment they crossed the threshold, the air grew colder, stale with chemical discharge and dead wiring. The hive's tunnels were metallic ribs, sunk deep into the bedrock. black sheen walls with pulsing orange veins that lit the path like weak bioluminescence. Remnants of Karwuk constructs lined the corridor, dismantled drones, power cores still ticking. Then the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. Rows of suspended caskets lined the walls. Not coffins, incubators. Reeve stepped closer. Inside the translucent shells, small forms twitched. Half-grown biomechanical creatures shaped like the drones above, but incomplete, twitching in green fluid. Genetic assembly lines, muttered Ives. They weren't just occupying, they were breeding here. Suddenly, the lights along the walls flickered. The power pulsed twice, then a shriek tore through the hive, sharp, electric, and wrong. "Contact!" someone shouted. 3 drones dropped from the ceiling, claws glowing red-hot. Reeve dove sideways as one scythed the air where his head had been. 2 Marines opened fire. Kinetic flechettes tore the first drone into chunks. The second made it through the line and slashed at Reeve's shoulder. Armor plating cracked. He stumbled but stayed upright, pain shooting down his arm. "Move!" Ives shouted. "Get him out!" Reeve gritted his teeth. Seal the nest. Burn it. They fell back as charges were planted. 1 drone chased them through the tunnel until a shotgun blast turned it into shrapnel. The hive erupted behind them in a ball of molten orange. Shock waves leveled nearby trees. Debris rained down, burning and blackened. Back at the triage dome, Reeve sat on a crate while a medic sprayed sealant over his wound. The armor had absorbed most of the hit, but the gash beneath needed stitching. He didn't flinch, not because it didn't hurt, but because flinching would waste time. Barlow approached with a fresh report. That hive wasn't the only one. Long-range scans are picking up similar structures across the sector. 7 planets, same formation pattern. Colonial worlds? Every one of them. All small, all under-defended. Which means this was Phase 1. She nodded. "We caught it early, but not early enough. Earth's fleet here isn't big enough to hit all 7. Reeve stood slowly, rotating his bandaged arm with care. "We don't need to hit all 7. We hit the right one, hard enough, loud enough, that they remember what happened the last time they picked the wrong fight." Messages were already moving up Earth's comm lines. Reeve didn't request aid. He reported action. Within 36 hours, Earth launched its second wave. 4 carrier groups emerged from hyperspace around Nareen 4 like migrating titans. Dozens of cruisers, hundreds of fighters, civilian engineers, drop craft, portable infrastructure. The sky became a lattice of Terran steel and firepower. No flag raising, no anthem, just work. The galaxy watched. Core world news relays flickered with sudden urgency. Union delegates fumbled for explanations. Earth responded with, "Unilateral force," said one. "Unannounced military engagement," said another. "Impressive logistics," admitted a third. But survivors on Nareen 4 had another word: deliverance. Lessa, now moving with a crutch and a limp, stepped out into the sunlight for the first time in days. She saw engineers building water processors where gardens used to be. She saw Terran fighters flying in formation to scan the next system. And above it all, she saw Earth's fleet, massive and silent, watching over them. She met Reeve by the edge of the plaza, nodding once in thanks. He nodded back. "You came fast," she said. "We're not a government. We're family." He didn't say more. The next campaign was already being planned. He could see the maps forming. New deployments, new strikes. The Karwik thought no one would come. They thought silence meant surrender. But Earth heard the scream. Earth answered. And Earth wasn't finished. A week passed. The last Karwok transmission was intercepted 72 hours ago, a scrambled burst of data laced with urgency. The language was fractal-cabered, unreadable to most Union algorithms. Earth broke it in minutes. It wasn't a call for reinforcements. It was a warning. To themselves Commander Jackson Reeve stood alone in the forward war room aboard the Resolute, eyes locked on the shifting positions of planetary nodes across the Orion Spur. 7 dots blinked in red, each one a colony like Nerine 4, each one marked for eradication. "Signal intercepts confirm Karuak fleet movement," said Barlow behind him. "They've consolidated, bigger ships, heavier armor. They're adapting." Reeve didn't turn. "So do we. 3 Union systems have declared neutrality. They won't engage." "They already chose. Let them." Barlow stepped beside him, tension tightening her jaw. "You're planning to take all 7? "No," Reeve said. "Just the one they need the most." He tapped the largest red dot, Raylus Prime. Unlike Nerine 4, it had defensive infrastructure. Not much, but enough for the Karuk to convert into a forward command post. They'd repurposed it quickly, turned its own orbital rings into hangar bays and shield arrays. The Karuk weren't just raiding now. They were building something. "They want a foothold," Reeve said. "We take it from under them. We cut deep, leave a scar they can't grow over." Orders went out, not requests, not appeals. 3 battle groups separated from Earth's anchor fleet, led by the Resolute, Davenport, and the freshly arrived dreadnought Verdict. Hundreds of interceptors formed a black swarm in their wake. Dropships preloaded with orbital infantry linked in tight wings. Every ship burned into hyperspace with a single destination: Raylus Prime. The Karuok did not expect Earth to arrive in force. They expected hesitation, diplomacy, the way the Union always handled escalation. What they got instead was kinetic bombardment, followed by boots on the deck. The attack began at high orbit. Terran ships launched a coordinated salvo that shattered the outer satellite grid. Crystalline debris spun into the atmosphere, dragging flames in their wake. Then came the breach pods, 12-man shells that slammed directly into the Karuek's converted defense platforms. Inside the lead pod, Reeve braced against his harness. The lights flickered red, the metal under his boots trembled. 10 seconds, said Ives next to him. Entry vector clean, multiple hostiles inbound as soon as the shell cracks. Reeve checked his sidearm, then the shoulder-mounted breaching charge. Then we don't wait for the shell to crack. At 2 seconds, he kicked open the hatch and launched into the corridor. The first drone met him at the far end, a heavy class with reinforced limbs. He ducked under its slash, fired twice into the sensor array, then pulled the breaching charge from his shoulder and slapped it onto the bulkhead. The blast punched through 2 layers of Karuk welded armor, opening a path for the rest of the squad to pour in. More Earth Marines followed, sweeping rooms with cold precision. Plasma fire lit the dark. "Control rooms 2 levels down," Ives said, crouched beside a blown hatch. "Take it, seal everything else." The fighting turned brutal. The Karuk countered with new tech trajectories, projectile disruptors, short-range jammers. But Earth soldiers adapted fast. They switched to wired comms, moved in tighter formations, redirected pulse weapons through insulated battery packs. By the end of the first hour, Earth held the command ring. By the third, orbital control was theirs. From above, the Verdict descended into low orbit, its belly opening like a steel flower. Its reactor throbbed with stored kinetic energy, ready to purge the surface if needed. Reeve stood on the scorched ring platform as the last Karuk drone toppled over the edge, sparks trailing behind it into open sky. Below, Raylus Prime cities glowed with faint blue, civilian lights, untouched by the strike. He didn't celebrate. Instead, he activated a wide-frequency broadcast. His voice carried across every Karuak channel within range. "You wanted silence. You thought no one would answer them. You thought Earth would stay quiet." He paused. "Now hear us." The Verdict fired. Its spinal cannon lit the upper atmosphere in a blinding line. It didn't strike civilians. It didn't crater cities. It vaporized the Karuak command base built into the planet's northern plateau. A fortress assembled over 6 weeks, now turned to dust in under 6 seconds. Reeve ended the transmission. Back aboard the Resolute, he leaned against the central console, breathing heavily. His shoulder still ached where the armor had cracked in the breach. Barlow handed him a drink pouch, but he ignored it. "We made the message clear," she said. "Not yet," Reeve replied. "We have to hold it." Barlow glanced at the status screen. "You're planning to keep Earth's fleet in this system?" "For now," he said. "We use Raylus as a signal beacon. We broadcast Narine's story on every channel, every hour. Not edited, not cleaned. Raw footage. What was done? Who answered? Let the galaxy watch." She hesitated. "That's not how the Union handles war." "Good. Maybe they'll learn." Down on the surface, KROE-F remnants tried to flee through ravines and ruined bunkers. Earth Marines hunted them with drones, calling out coordinates like coordinates were personal. By midnight, the last of the invaders were gone. Not just dead, routed. Survivors, both human and otherwise, emerged from hiding. Some had been imprisoned in Kerouac holding tunnels. Others had gone feral in the forests. Earth medics treated all of them, regardless of species, without ceremony. "We answer distress signals," one soldier told a Dreven child as he handed her a meal pouch. "That's what we do." Union fleets finally appeared at the edge of the system 2 days later, bristling with questions and nervous silence. They hailed the Resolute. Reeve let them wait a full minute before responding. "Commander Reeve," said the Union envoy, a pale, blue-skinned diplomat named Valine. "This engagement was not authorized." Reeve stared into the screen. "Neither was genocide. There are procedures, protocols. Your actions saved over 20,000 lives. There will be hearings." "Send them to Narid Voy," Reeve said. "Let them hold their hearings in the ash." He ended the call. No one followed. From that day, the Karawuk stopped expanding. They didn't retreat entirely, but they pulled back from border systems. Earth had changed the calculus. The invaders no longer saw weakness in scattered colonies. They saw risk. And Reeve, still walking with a sling on his arm and burn marks on his gloves, kept planning. They would wait for the next distress signal, and when it came, Earth would move again. The outpost was quiet when the message arrived. Not a distress call, not this time, just a signal, short, encrypted, and flagged with Earth's new rapid responsing protocol. Jackson Reeve stood in the dim light of a recon room buried 3 decks below the surface base on Raylus Prime. His left arm was still wrapped in a support sleeve, though the bone had mostly healed. A small ache remained, sharp on cold days like this one. Barlow handed him a printout. Signal originated from an independent colony called Varela Station, not Union-aligned, small population, agri-based. What happened? Unknown. The signal cut mid-transmission, but what got through matches Karawak incursion patterns. Atmospheric breach followed by signal distortion. Could be another nest attempt. Reeve nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the wall map. Varela Station sat just 2 jumps from Raylus, near a sparse stretch of mapped space. It had no defenses, no garrison, no reason anyone would protect it, except Earth. He turned to the console and activated the strike beacon. There was no delay. Orders propagated across the fleet. Within 2 hours, a dozen ships broke orbit from Raylus Prime and dove into hyperspace, weapons hot. The flagship Resolute led the way. Varela Station orbited a quiet, blue-green world with soft oceans and low-range mountains, the kind of planet where you forgot the rest of the galaxy was teetering on the edge of war. But now its main settlement was a crater, glassed, pocked with the remains of scavenger drones and failed Kerouac terraforming units. The Terran fleet arrived in formation and immediately scanned for life signs. There were some, not many. Less than 600 alive, Barlow reported from the command table. Mostly underground. Heat signatures show crude tunnels, no formal shelters. Are they armed? Not in any meaningful way. Reeve looked at the data feed, eyes narrowing. The Karuk didn't just raid here. They were building again. Another forward nest? He pointed at the heat bloom. Worse. That's not a drone nursery. That's a birthing forge. A forge was different. Karuk forges were seeded only when a system was claimed. It meant they were done testing, done skirmishing. It meant they were establishing roots. The forge had to go. Reeve led the strike himself. Drop pods tore through Virella's thin upper atmosphere, flanked by 3 squadrons of exo-equipped Marines. The forge glowed on the western slope of a cliffside, half machine, half living tissue, a pulsing monolith of black and green, with cables like tendrils sunk deep into the mountain. Terran missiles hit it first. Plasma shields deflected the initial salvo, but a second wave of armor-piercing drones punched through. The structure cracked. Something inside screamed. Deep, alien, wrong. Reeve landed 30 meters from the perimeter and moved forward through smoke, issuing tight orders through a visor-linked HUD. Set charges on the core. No breach attempt. We're not studying it. We're ending it. Movement above, Ives called. 2 drones, heavy class. Gunfire raked down from the ridge. Reeve rolled into cover, shoulder catching the edge of a rock outcrop. He grunted but stayed on his feet. A Marine beside him fired a guided flechette round that caught one drone mid-descent. The second landed hard, slashing with serried limbs. It barreled toward Reeve. He pulled his sidearm, fired once into the joint, then drove a combat knife into the sensor node. Sparks sprayed. The drone flailed, then fell. Charge set, Ives called. Fall back. They cleared the ridge. Reeve didn't wait. He thumbed the detonator. The forge erupted in a spiral of flame. The shockwave rolled over the valley like a tide. Smoke and black ash blotted out the sun. Recovery began immediately. Medics pulled survivors from the tunnels beneath what had once been Virella's main square. Most were malnourished, some were wounded. Reeve helped carry stretchers himself, boots coated in soot. His arm throbbed again. One boy, no more than 10, reached for his hand. "Are you from Earth?" Reeve paused. "I am." The boy stared up at the sky, where Terran ships hovered like sentinels. "Why did you come?" Reeve knelt. "Because you asked." He stood again before the boy could answer. There was work left. 3 days later, back aboard the Resolute, the last Karuk transmission from Virella was intercepted. Unlike the others, it wasn't scrambled. It was deliberate. A message to others in their species. The translation was crude, but the meaning was clear. They do not retreat. They do not debate. They are not like the others. Earth hears the scream. Barlow listened beside him. They finally understand. Reeve didn't smile. Maybe. Or maybe they're just scared. We bought time. For Noreen, for Virella, for the others. For now. He looked out at the stars, still bruised from the forge's detonation. The galaxy would keep spinning. More screams would rise, more distress calls would come. But now, everyone knew who would answer first. Not for glory, not for territory, just because someone had to. And Earth never needed permission. The broadcast came the next morning. Union delegates, in their smooth halls and polished robes, spoke at length about Earth's actions. They condemned the unilateral strikes, the use of non-union resources, the refusal to adhere to diplomatic channels. They used terms like reckless and unregulated and unpredictable. Then they aired footage unedited, raw. Children pulled from rubble. Civilians fed from Terran supply crates. Medical staff treating wounds with nothing but grit and portable scanners. The Resolute in low orbit, unmoving, unblinking, watching over what was left. And finally, a single line, broadcast across every Union comlink, in every tongue. "We heard you." Reeve sat alone in the command bay, hands folded in his lap. Outside the viewport, the stars returned to silence. No alarms, no alerts, just the deep hum of an Earth-built ship keeping pace with the galaxy. Barlow entered. "New signal just came in. This one's not Karuk, but it's familiar." He raised an eyebrow. "A mining colony. Periphery zone. Broken comms. We're not even sure it's an attack. Reeve stood. Doesn't matter. Prep the fleet.